Hello everyone! Today we are back on our ComputerCraft series, episode 6. Today I will talk about loops, and more specific about the for loop and the while loop. There's also the repeat loop. That's one I rarely use. I won't be talking much about that. So what are loops? Loops are basically a way to execute a piece of code several times on the same spot. So that can be adding numbers to another, like several times. That can be doing a mining script a few times over. That can be basically everything that you want to do several times after one another. Now I will do that by an example of just adding a number like 1 to 2 with a certain interval. And let's go into an edit loops. So we are here inside of the program, and we will start with the for loop if our master slime is friendly, and we will do that by an example of printing a number. On its own, that's not so fancy, but we want to increase that number by 1 every single time. And for that we need, of course, a variable, the number I. Sometimes I use the number n, other people tend to use other letters for that. It can be a complete word, that doesn't matter. We need a starting condition, so we start at 1 and we go all the way to 5 with an interval of 1. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you need an interval of just 1, you can leave this away, but for the completion I will include it here. And a loop ends with a do, and the code block will be ended by an AND, just like the if then and else statement. And for now we will just print I. So what do we expect if we execute this? We will see on the screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exactly that and nothing more. So let's run loops. Just like I said, 1, route to 5, that's it. But we can change a bit on the interval. We can change it to 2. So now I expect to only see 1, 3 and 5. Next time maybe a bit easier. If you need this, this is how you do it. Put it back to 1 now. So that's pretty much all there is to a for loop. You will use it in a lot of places, most likely. But this is the mechanic, and there's not much more you can talk about it. You can use it for a lot of stuff. You will see it a lot in my mining scripts, or in some range where I need to go through a certain amount of values. Then you use a for loop. If you want to do something until a certain statement is true, then you want to use a while loop. That can be anything. That can be until a certain fuel amount is achieved, or if the server is past 500 days, or if it is later than 4 AM, just to give some examples. That can be done by a while loop. You set them up in exactly the same way. So you have while, then you have your statement. I will say that math.random, so a random number between 1 and 10, smaller than, let's say, 8. And while that is true, do something. And I want to print test. And we have to end that as well. So what are we going to see if we execute all of this? we are going to see 1 to 5 again from the for loop, and then a random amount of times that it takes to generate a random number between 1 and 10 that is smaller than 8. So it can be 1 attempt, it can be a several. I don't know, since it's a random number. First try, lucky. Either 3 times. Also needs 3 times. First time lucky. So it's and 2 times. So it's a lucky. You will see if we increase this to let's say smaller than 9, that will be pretty much all the time. If we say if it is bigger than 8, then it can only be 9 or 10. So that's a 1 in 5 chances. See how that's going to turn out. Of course, first time lucky, second time lucky, 2 times. Well, it's a bit too consistent for my taste, but okay. I think we were just really unlucky. See if this, so if it is smaller than 9, let's see what this is going to do. 1 try, 2 tries, interesting. This is what you can do with a while loop, and you will, like I said, will use this in a lot of applications, and it's a really powerful tool. It is also a little bit too powerful at some moments. So if you, for example, you say that while something is true, and let's say just true for now, it will print test instantly over and over and over again. So it will do something infinite amount of times. That's called an infinite loop, and that will give some really big problems if you are not careful. So I will run it, and it will now just print test all over again with no end in sight until the operating thinks that you are into an infinite loop which isn't doing a thing. Then it will stop it for you. That usually happens if you don't include delay or sleep in it. But let's say if you did just a delay of 1 second. Let's see what happens. So it will keep printing text a little bit slower, but now the operating system thinks that it's still doing something, which for us clearly isn't doing anything anymore aside from printing text. But we cannot interact, we cannot type, we cannot do anything. If we can't do anything, how do we stop this? And there is one way to terminate a program at all times, which is Ctrl T. You have to hold it down for 2, maybe 3 seconds, and it will say that it is terminated. By now, we can type again, interact with it like we did a moment ago, and that's how you break out of a while loop, also for the for loop, also the repeat loop. So all loops can be broken. There's also another way that you can break a while loop, for example, and that is if we add a small counter to this. Let's pick n, for example, just for a random number, and we say that it's n plus 1. Every single time n will increase. Just for the sake of testing, print n, and if we make a small if statement, so if n equals 10, for example, then we want to break the loop. And you do that literally by typing break. You still have to include that end for the if statement. So if everything goes well, after 10 test prints and also printing of n, the while loop will stop. And with that, continue in our program. So let's see what happens if we run this with test 1. And we made a typo. So let's run it and then see how it goes. 3, 4, 5, so this will go up to 10. The 10th time will be executed since it is at the end of our loop, and then it will break. So that's pretty much all that there is to the for loop and the while loop. And those two combined will be really useful in a few places. And next time we will go into one more thing before we go back into the bigger programming projects. And that will be functions. Technically, functions are a kind of variable, but they are just really handy. But what they are, that's something you will figure out next time. Have a good day, night, evening, and hope to see you in the next part. Bye bye.